I'm Chris, and in this episode, Chinese ships in the Strait of Hormuz surged overnight. Foreign vessels are now sailing under China's national flag as a maritime talisman. Chinese Foreign Minister met with U.S. Secretary of State Rubio, and both spoke positively about the meeting, even amid a hint of uneasiness. A new device in Xinjiang cotton plantations had solved the hardest manual task in planting. The China Association for Science and Technology released 30 major scientific problems most worth solving for humanity, outlining a sci-fi style future. And doping control frequency at the 2025 World Aquatics Championship revealed Chinese swimmers were tested twice as often as US athletes. A food safety accident at a kindergarten broke Chinese hearts, with 6 provincial-level departments involved in the investigation. Our first story covers last week's press conference by China's Ministry of National Defense. The China spokesperson was asked to comment on a recent rise in foreign vessels sailing under the Chinese national flag in the Strait of Hormuz to avoid being attacked. The Strait of Hormuz is located south of Iran and serves as a key channel for Middle East oil bound for global markets. About 1/5 of the world's oil supply passes through it. In recent Iran-Israel conflict, Iran threatened to block the strait as a political lever. Earlier on, Chinese military media suggested that it was unlikely for foreign ships to raise Chinese flags, but data from the Automatic Identification System, or AIS, showed that some vessels were deliberately implying an association with China, hoping to appear less likely targets. For example, the Panama-flagged container ship Summit Singapore, bound for the Gulf of Aden, listed Chinese crew in its AIS despite having no Chinese crew on board. At the end of last month, Reuters cited maritime intelligence firm Windward, reporting that 55 vessels transmitting 101 atypical messages across the Gulf and Red Sea from June 12th to 24th, including China-owned and Russian crude, in hope of preventing attacks because those countries are less likely to be targeted than Western ships. At China's Defense Ministry briefing, spokesperson Jiang Bin commented, "Justice lies with the people." He added, China will continue to stand on the side of peace, on the side of justice, on the side of historical correctness, injecting stability and positive energy into regional and world peace and stability. Turning to diplomacy, on July 11th, Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi and U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio had a sit-down talk on the sidelines of the ASEAN meeting in Kuala Lumpur. The meeting came as Beijing and Washington sought to stabilize their complex relationship, marred in recent months by escalating trade dispute. And frankly, tensions were already building before the recent tariff disagreement 6 months ago. Wang Yi had called Rubio and warned him to 好自为之, a phrase that quickly went viral online. China's foreign ministry translated it as act accordingly, while Reuters rendered it more sternly as conduct yourself well. But this recent meeting appeared extremely courteous and restrained. A Chinese readout described the talk as positive, pragmatic, and constructive. Foreign Minister Wang Yi told U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio he hoped Washington would approach China in an equal, respectful, and mutually beneficial manner, and to find a correct way for China and U.S. to get along, according to a statement from China's Foreign Ministry. Rubio also spoke positively. While the U.S. and China disagreed on some matters, the talk gave us some things we can work on together. He also hinted at a possible meeting between President Donald Trump and President Xi Jinping this year. He said the odds are high, but added that both sides needed to build the right atmosphere and the right deliverables. Despite official portrayals of calm and harmony, observers were not so sure. Foreign media noted that the Rubio-Wang meeting lasted about an hour, whereas Wang's meeting with former U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken in July last year, also at an ASEAN gathering, lasted nearly 90 minutes. They also highlighted Rubio's special status in China. He has been sanctioned twice by Beijing, becoming the first sitting Secretary of State to face such penalties. On the other hand, Chinese netizens and state media seem more willing to give Rubio the benefit of doubt, hoping that US will return to a more rational approach toward China. Today's third story comes from China's Xinjiang province, where alleged forced labor in cotton fields supposed to have happened, according to Western media. In reality, Xinjiang's cotton fields are introducing new automated machines to replace the delicate manual labor of cotton harvesting. The new machine is designed to perform cotton topping, removing the plant's apical bud to redirect energy into side branches, resulting in larger cotton balls. Until now, this task had been done by hand, a process plagued by inefficiency, inaccuracy, and crop damage. Now, a laser topping robot is taking over. The robot was jointly developed by Xinjiang University and EA Vision Robotics Technology, a company that exports agricultural drones to countries including Japan, Turkey, Brazil, Indonesia, and Thailand. Using LiDAR and vision fusion, the blue laser accurately burns off the cotton bud. Field tests shows the recognition accuracy of 98.9%, damage rate of under 3%, and topping success rate above 82%. Researchers say the machine is in pilot testing. Once fully deployed, the robot can cover 0.4 to 0.5 hectares per hour, more than 10 times the efficiency of manual work. Automation reduces damage and pollution too. According to Pei Xinmin from Xinjiang Agricultural University, cotton topping is the final hurdle to fully mechanizing cotton production. As of 2024, Xinjiang already boasts an over 97% full process mechanization rate and over 90% machine harvest rate. With precision seeding, pest monitoring instruments, and drone-based spraying, mechanized cotton farming costs dropped from $1,507 per acre to $1,088 per acre, a reduction of approximately 27.8%. If the topping robot is successful, the top-tier cotton fiber may lead the world in full-process mechanization. More on China's vision for the future world. Last week, the China Association for Science and Technology released 30 major scientific challenges both worth tackling for humanity. Proposed by universities and international bodies, these 30 were chosen from 90 entries to serve as the heralds of China's scientific development. We looked into just 10 of these Chinese ambitions, and DeepSeek suggests that solving these problems alone could lead future generations to live lives drastically different from ours. Humans could desalinate seawater on a massive scale, generate energy more efficiently with longer-lasting devices, mine the moon or asteroids, employ drones, self-driving vehicles, and robots to replace humans, boost chip I/O speeds, use biomedical materials to slow aging, treat elderly diseases, or even enable organ transplants. Eventually, we could achieve secure, low-carbon, cost-effective energy systems, use satellites for remote sensing to monitor farmlands, city planning, predict earthquakes or floods, combine AI monitoring farming with biovaccines for pests, realizing precision agriculture. Turning inward, we could also use brain-machine interfaces to treat complex disorders. Some of these advances might unsettle you, just as people once feared trains and planes, but it appears we have ample time and many brilliant people to resolve these concerns, as humanity always has. Next news, a harsh reality the Chinese sports community can no longer overlook. The 2025 World Aquatics Championship opened on July 11th in Singapore, and recently the International Testing Agency, or ITA, released data on doping test frequencies for World Championship athletes. Chinese swimmers topped the list with an average of 8.8 tests per athlete, about double the rate of US athletes. The ITA has conducted 4,018 tests since January 1st, 2025, both in competition and out, about 2 tests per athlete on average. Among the 10 countries with the most swimmers, Russian athletes competing under neutral status came second, with 8.2 tests per athlete. The US and Australia averaged 4.13 and 4 tests, respectively, followed by France, Italy, Hungary, Japan, Canada, and the UK. But now you likely understand why these sparked outrage in China. During the 2024 Paris Olympics, doping was seen as weaponized against China. Chinese swimmers face 5 to 7 urine tests per day, with only a few hours break between each. In contrast, one American athlete might only test 3 times during the whole games. Chinese audiences have also noticed a suspiciously high ratio of athletes with asthma in the US swimming team, as these conditions warrant the use of medications that are otherwise banned. At the time, one comment deeply resonated with Chinese public from scholar Shen Yi, who has over 5 million followers. We can celebrate humankind's physical limits in a pure idealistic way, but we must also recognize when events fall into strategic competition between great powers in which there are dirty moves we need to counter. Otherwise, there will be no end to our forbearance. Finally, let's review a heartbreaking story from China. Earlier this month, a tragedy struck high-end kindergarten in Tianshui, Gansu province. 233 children tested with elevated blood lead, the highest level reaching 528 micrograms per liter, 4 times China's national standard. Lead poisoning can cause permanent intellectual damage in children, and current medical treatment only slowly remove lead via chelation therapy. The suffer endured by children and their parents has touched hearts nationwide. Investigation by Chinese police found the poisoning source to be colored cakes made by the kindergarten. They had added industrial-grade coloring, causing lead concentration over 2,000 times the national limit of 0.0 milligrams per kg. 8 individuals, including the principal and investors, have been criminally detained. But there are some rather unusual aspects to this case. The staff had no motive to poison their own institution, and teachers and chefs who ate the cakes also tested positive for lead. Even more absurdly, laboratory tests showed industrial colorants were far less efficient than food-grade ones. So to get the same hue, chefs had to use 26 times more industrial dye. The most reasonable explanation seemed to be that the kindergarten mistakenly bought industrial dye on an e-commerce platform. The unintended mistake has sparked public reflection. Many users blamed the online platform and called for mandatory buyer qualification checks when selling industrial products. At a national level, the Food Safety Commission of the State Council recently issued a document rewarding whistleblowers in food companies who report expired ingredients, illegal additives, or hygiene hazards. Latest updates: after treatment, some children's blood lead levels have fallen below 250 micrograms per liter and they are being discharged. On July 12th, the case was elevated to provincial level investigation led by top Gansu officials and 6 provincial departments.
偷偷告诉大家，我最近发现了新法宝 Royal Face 逆时奇迹系列，它有活肤露、全效精华，还有精华霜。尤其我皮肤比较偏干，所以我非常的注重保湿。保湿做得好，肌肤自然烹润。提亮肤色更年轻，抚平皱纹超有感，而且气色变好。用心保养，每天都更美一点。美吧。